If life has been hitting you in the same place over and over, you are not weak for feeling tired. You are not broken for needing a moment to breathe. Most people are not struggling because they lack strength. They are struggling because their mind keeps interpreting pain as proof that something is wrong with them. I know that feeling. The tight chest at night when the room is quiet. The way your thoughts start scanning the past like a security camera, looking for the moment you messed up. The way small problems start feeling like a verdict. You tell yourself, you should be over it by now. You tell yourself other people handle more. You try to think positive, and it feels fake, so you stop trying at all. That is not a character flaw. That is a nervous system doing its job, predicting danger, conserving energy, trying to keep you safe. Resilience gets misunderstood. People think it means being unbothered, like a stone that never cracks. Real resilience is closer to a tree in wind. It moves, it bends, it makes noise, it loses a few leaves, it stays rooted. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to stop turning feelings into identity. A mindset shift is not a magic thought that deletes pain. A mindset shift is a new interpretation that changes what your brain does next. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. It is always asking one question under the surface. What does this mean about me and my future? When the meaning is threatening, your body tightens, your attention narrows, your behavior gets smaller. When the meaning is workable, your body loosens, your attention widens, your behavior gets more flexible. That flexibility is resilience. One of the biggest traps is what psychology calls cognitive distortion. That just means your mind bends reality in a predictable way when you are stressed. The common one is catastrophizing, which means you treat a problem like it is the end of the story. A late bill becomes a ruined life. A tense conversation becomes the collapse of a relationship. A mistake becomes proof you are incompetent. The distortion feels like truth because your body is already in threat mode. The heart rate goes up, the breath gets shallow, and the mind starts building a case. In that state, you do not need a pep talk. You need a different relationship with the thought. I practice something called cognitive diffusion, which means I stop treating thoughts like commands and start treating them like mental events. When my mind says, "This is going to end badly," I try to add one quiet phrase. My mind is predicting. That small shift matters. Predicting is not knowing. Predicting is what brains do when they have been burned before. Resilience grows when you stop arguing with the weather and start checking your equipment. If a storm is coming, I do not stand outside and shout at the sky. I close the windows. I bring in what can blow away. I charge my phone. I make soup. In the same way, when a hard week hits, I do not need to prove I am fine. I need to ask, what would help my system stay steady right now? Food, water, sleep, movement, contact with one safe person, less doom scrolling, more light in the morning. That is not weakness. That is maintenance. Another mindset shift is moving from a fixed identity to a flexible identity. A fixed identity sounds like I am the kind of person who always messes up, or I am not strong, or I cannot handle pressure. A flexible identity sounds like I am a person who is learning how I respond to pressure. That is not wordplay. That is self-efficacy, which means the belief that you can influence outcomes through your actions. Self-efficacy is one of the strongest predictors of resilience, not because it makes life easy, but because it keeps you in the game. I have seen how identity can trap behavior. You miss a few workouts and suddenly you are not a healthy person anymore. You overspend once and suddenly you are irresponsible. You lose your temper and suddenly you are toxic. That is the brain using a shortcut. It takes one moment and turns it into a label. Labels feel certain, and certainty feels safe. But labels also lock you into a small future. A more resilient mindset is to treat behavior like data. Data is not a verdict. Data is information. If I snap at someone, the data might be that I am overloaded, underslept, and carrying resentment I have not named. Now I can work with it. If I avoid a task, the data might be that I am afraid of being judged, or I do not know the first step, or the task is tied to an old failure. Now I can work with it. Resilience is not about never falling. It is about learning how you fall so you can land better next time. There is a concept called locus of control. That means where you believe control lives. An external locus of control means life is mostly happening to you. An internal locus of control means your choices matter. A resilient mindset is not pretending you control everything. That would be delusion. A resilient mindset is being ruthless about one thing, finding the part you can influence, even if it is small, even if it is just your next 10 minutes. I think of it like being in a dark room with a flashlight. You cannot light the whole room at once. You can only light what you point at. Attention works the same way. Under stress, your attention locks onto threats. It is like your flashlight gets stuck on the worst corner. A mindset shift is learning to move the beam, not to deny the threat, but to include options. If you can notice one stable thing, one supportive resource, one next action, your nervous system starts to come down. Your brain starts to see pathways again. This is where affect labeling helps. Affect labeling means naming what you feel in plain words. When I say, I feel anxious or I feel ashamed, I am not being dramatic. I am giving the feeling a container. Research shows that naming emotions can reduce their intensity because it engages the part of the brain that organizes experience. It is like taking a fog and turning it into weather you can describe. Still unpleasant, but less supernatural. I want to make this real. Imagine you are lying in bed, phone glowing, stomach heavy. You replay a message you sent. You think you sounded stupid. Your mind starts building a story. They will lose respect for me. I always do this. I ruin things. Your body reacts like you are being chased. Now the resilient move is not to force confidence. The resilient move is to slow down and name the pattern. This is social threat. This is mind reading, which is a distortion where you assume you know what others think. This is shame, which is the feeling that you are bad, not that you did something bad. When you name it, you create space. Then comes another mindset shift. From outcome obsession to process loyalty. Outcome obsession says I need this to go well or I am not safe. Process loyalty says I am going to do the next right thing even if I cannot guarantee the result. That is how resilient people live. They do not have more certainty. They have more practice moving without certainty. Your habits matter here because resilience is not built in emergencies. It is built in ordinary moments. Operant conditioning is the psychology term for how behavior is shaped by consequences. It means what gets rewarded gets repeated. If every time you feel stress, you escape into scrolling, your brain learns that avoidance equals relief. Relief is a reward. The problem is that relief is short and the cost is long. Resilience grows when you start rewarding approach instead of avoidance. Approach can be tiny. One email draft, one glass of water, one walk around the block, one honest sentence in your journal. The reward is not fireworks. The reward is trust. You start trusting that you do not abandon yourself when things get uncomfortable. There is also cognitive dissonance, which means the tension you feel when your actions and values do not match. If you value health but keep numbing out, that tension becomes shame. Shame drains resilience. The mindset shift is to treat dissonance like a compass, not a courtroom. It is pointing, not punishing. It is saying something matters to you. That is good news. Now you can align in small ways. Resilience also depends on how you explain setbacks. Psychologists call this attribution style. That means the story you tell about why something happened. If you explain setbacks as permanent, personal, and pervasive, meaning it will always be like this, it is because I am like this, it affects everything, you will feel helpless. If you explain setbacks as temporary, specific, and changeable, you will feel more agency. Not because you are lying, but because you are being precise. This went badly today. This is about this situation. There are factors I can adjust. I have noticed that the most painful moments are often moments of narrowed identity. You become the person who failed. You become the person who is behind. You become the person who cannot cope. Resilience is widening the frame. You are also the person who kept going through things you did not post about. You are also the person who learned skills the hard way. You are also the person who can notice what is happening right now and choose a different response. Sometimes the shift is simply this. Pain is part of the path, and suffering is the extra story I add. Pain is the event, the loss, the rejection, the hard conversation. Suffering is the meaning that says, this proves I am unlovable, or this will never change. When I catch myself adding that extra story, I try to come back to the raw facts. What happened, what I feel, what I need, what I can do next. That is not cold, that is kind. It is refusing to stab myself with a second knife. A resilient mindset also respects the body. When people say, I cannot handle stress, I often see a body that has been running on fumes. Your brain is an organ. It needs recovery. If you are underslept, underfed, isolated, and overstimulated, your mindset will be darker. Not because you are negative, but because your system is depleted. Sometimes the most powerful mindset shift is giving yourself permission to stabilize first. To stop treating rest like a reward you earn, and start treating it like a requirement for clear thinking. If you are listening late at night, I want you to notice something simple.